For the next few videos, I'm going to be discussing something that is personal in nature and is not going to be very easy for me to discuss. But I'm going to be talking about my own personal background, my work history, and pretty much covering different events that have happened, different situations that I've been in that have all culminated in where I am now and the situation I am now, physically as well as financially, etc. Now, I understand that other people here in the Philippines that have their own YouTube channels, they sometimes will start doing videos talking about their own background, their own story. They'll tell stories about their past life. Um, they'll interview other foreigners to see, like, why did you move here, things like that. And, a lot of people are interested in those type of videos. At this time, I don't intend to record, interviews with other people, in part because I don't know any other foreigners in this area, but it's just not something that's really relevant immediately at this time as far as just getting you guys information about deciding to retire here. If you're wanting to get that kind of video, there's people that have been doing it for a while, they've got better experience, and they're around a lot more foreigners. So the reason that I'm doing this is so that later on, as I'm explaining certain things, the way things are here, my situation, my lifestyle, you should have a better understanding of why I'm in this situation, why my income isn't much higher, things like that. It's also going to show why I had to make certain drastic decisions to move here when I did and in the manner that I did. A lot of this is information that I haven't talked about with family members or even close friends, relationships. So for me to just go out and tell the public this information, it's not easy. I'm going to try and stick to information that is relevant to this discussion, try and avoid discussing certain private situations that aren't necessarily important for this. So here we go. I was born in Southern California, just outside Los Angeles. I love the beach. At a young age, we would go to the beach all the time. I actually learned how to swim before I learned how to walk. So that right there kind of, in my opinion, played a big part in one of the reasons why I moved here to the Philippines. It's just, for me, the beach is a relaxing, peaceful place, and I find comfort at the beach. But when I was young, my dad, my parents weren't well off financially or anything. My dad, for a while, he would work as a security guard or a truck driver, just basic jobs like that. He was injured on the job, permanently disabled. The family decided to move to Southern Oregon. And going to Southern Oregon, obviously there's no beaches around. We were higher up in the mountains, surrounded by trees and lakes and rivers. Different environment, but we really got into it. Because my dad was disabled, my mom kind of took over those duties, so she was our scout master. We got into Cub Scouts and eventually into Boy Scouts, and I almost made it to Eagle Scout. There were just timing problems that I wasn't able to complete it. But we started getting really interested in going out fishing, camping, hiking, boating. There were areas you could go into caves. So I was very active outdoors. And I liked the wilderness, not as much as the beach, but it was still an enjoyable time. One of the problems that we had, though, is being the kids from Southern California, moving to a smaller town. One area of our town was, and the surrounding areas was all trees. So we had a big logging industry. There were 3 lumber mills in the area. If you go in the other direction, it's just nothing but farmlands. You've got a lot of farmers and stuff. So we're coming to a community where a lot of people know each other, and we're the outsiders. Going to school, we're always getting bullied and picked on by other students. And if we tried to defend ourselves, we would get in trouble. If we tried to bring it up to teachers or the school administration, they would just dismiss it. Essentially, in those smaller communities, all of the teachers, the school administrators, they all are close friends with the students' parents. So the kids that are bullying us, the teachers are friends with their parents, so they don't want to really do anything to stop the problem. And because school sucked because of this, I skipped out on a lot of classes, just wasn't getting that vibe of, it's a good learning environment. Once I started high school, I could kind of see that, at that time there wasn't the big financial aid options that you have now. So back then, in order for you to go to college, either you've got to come from a rich family that's got the money for it, or you have to be an amazing student in something that you're able to get some kind of a scholarship. So I wasn't real big in sports in school. I wasn't a math genius. So in my eyes, I wasn't going to be getting any college because my family didn't have the money to pay for it, and I'm not going to get any scholarships for it. So I'm trying to figure out other options. What other things can I do if I'm not going to get college? Now, I really enjoyed the idea of working in a uniformed position where I'm helping other people and serving my country, serving my community, doing something important. Firefighting, law enforcement, those were two, clear options. Younger boys always want to be the firefighter or the police officer. But for me at a young age, the military was a really big deal. I had a above average IQ. I was able to learn certain things really quickly. And I'd say around the age of 12, 13, I was reading a lot of books. You could go to bookstores and find old books and documents on military tactics, Warsaw Pact doctrine, things like that. So like around the age of 12, 13 years old, I could actually identify almost every Warsaw Pact or NATO aircraft, ground vehicle, or weapons system. So it was just one of those things I was really interested in, learning all the different details about it, learning the field equipment and the different jobs or MOS that the military has, how they all play together. It was just something really interesting. So when I was in high school, joining the military was looking like something I could really do, something I would enjoy doing, and it's something I could do as a career. So I start going and talking to the Oregon Army National Guard recruiter. I spent a few minutes talking with some of the active duty recruiters, but I got the vibe from them that they weren't being honest about everything, that they were just kind of trying to scam you into joining. But the guy at the National Guard, he was a recruiter, but this is the kind of guy that after you finish your training, you're not just, a regular recruiter. You go, you talk to him, he signs you up, he ships you out, and you never hear from him again. In the National Guard, though, your recruiter is there at your armory. He's part of your unit, so you're coming in every month to train, and that's a guy you got to see. He's not going to lie to people because he doesn't want them coming after him afterwards. So I was getting very good, honest information from him. I start hanging out with the unit there, getting to know a lot of the people, the different types of jobs that were available. It was looking really cool. A lot of, they were mainly an infantry unit with some support units. And what I was seeing is a lot of stuff they do, it's very similar to things that you would do, in Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, whatever, like map reading, land navigation, going through the woods, shooting. I learned to shoot at a young age, was really good at shooting. So I start really talking to the National Guard about joining up. When I was old enough to go delayed entry program, so I'm 17 years old, that was the option that I chose. So I was supposed to be class of 96, but December of 94, I get my GED, and a couple months later, I'm in the Guard, delayed entry. I'm issued a uniform, I'm going out on drill with them, I'm just not getting paid for it, but it was fun. So I'm just going out, I'm hanging out at the armory all the time, just enjoying what I was doing. The next year, 96, I'm old enough now, I get sworn in, so now I'm actually in the unit. I get properly assigned and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really enjoying it, and I'm finding I'm very good at it. I'm starting to go through and I'm starting to get really high scores on a lot of the skills and our testing. They're having me train newer guys that are coming in. It was something that I really thought, this is something I could do as a career. I love it. I enjoy it. I want to do this. Problem is with the National Guard, generally you're only training 1 weekend per month, and then you have your 2-week annual training every year. It wasn't enough. I wanted to do this every day. Luckily, I got along really well with our chain of command. They could see that I was really good at my job. I really knew what I was doing. I guess they saw in me that this was something I could actually pursue as a career and be successful in it. They understood why I wanted to do it more, and they were very kind and willing to work with me on it. So essentially the end of '97, I'm able to transition into active duty before my contract with the Guard ended. There was a complication though. When I was going active duty, I was trying to figure out what unit to go to. And for me, going to Fort Benning, Georgia was going to be a big one, because anybody that knows anything about infantry, you know that Fort Benning is like Disneyland for the infantrymen. You've got all these different schools there. You have a good chance of being able to get slots into those schools, which is going to help your career out later on. And that's pretty much what I was trying to get in my contract, was I wanted to be assigned there at Fort Benning to one of the units there. But before you ship out for anything, you have what's called an inspect physical, an inspection physical. So it's just a last minute physical. They check your, eyes and hearing and all that kind of stuff just really quick before you ship out. And for whatever reason, they determined that I was colorblind, which I'm not. For whatever reason, it was a false on their test. And instead of them allowing me to come back a month later to retest, they were basically telling me, you're going to have to choose a different job right now, or we're not going to help you anymore, and you're not going to be able to enlist in the military. I was crushed. I was in shock because, all my bags are packed. My family knows that I'm leaving for active duty. I'm going to be gone for a few years. And all of a sudden, these guys are basically telling me that the job that I've been doing for a few years, I can't do anymore. I didn't really know what to do. Recruiters kind of started spinning their spiel, and essentially what I got talked into was, I told them I only want combat arms. I don't want any, auto mechanic or some other random job like that. I want a combat arms. I told them, look, I know I'm not colorblind, and whatever job you send me to, they're immediately going to find out when I get there that I'm not colorblind. So I'm going to have to go in, spend a term of enlistment in some new job before I can re-enlist back to infantry. Field artillery was the only job that was on that available list that looked somewhat decent. This meant changing my orders. So now instead of going to Fort Benning, Georgia to a regular infantry unit, now I'm going to have to go to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, go through a whole new school, learn, get certified for field artillery, and then go to some other location. But I got able to talk them into my contract. I was looking at my options, and I'm like, okay, as field artillery, what can I do? And what I was deciding is I want to go 10th Mountain Division. I'll be Division Artillery. I'll get stationed at Fort Drum, New York. Yeah, it's going to suck being artillery, but because I'm going to be in the 10th Mountain Division, when my first term in artillery is up and I'm able to re-enlist, if I want to re-enlist into infantry, I'll be able to re-enlist right into the infantry unit there at 10th Mountain Division. And from there, because they're one of the higher quality units, you're going to have, again, all those options for going to schools, progressing, and really helping build your career. So that was the option that I took, and what was it like? But I think by the time I was shipping out and I got to Fort Sill, it was like right at the beginning of '98, and that was it. So I start going through the training there at Fort Sill with field artillery. I was self-propelled, so I was supposed to be assigned as the driver of a M109 howitzer. Basically, it looks like a tank with a big gun on it. And that was going to be what I was stuck doing for a few years. Unfortunately, I was injured in a training accident right at the end of training, for our AIT school. I was injured. I fractured both feet and ankles. And pretty much I was eventually able to finish my training, graduate, get my diploma and all that. But because of my injuries, I was deemed to be not combat deployable. And that caused some complications. Part of it is because I got screwed over on my contract. Originally, again, I had set up to go to Fort Drum, New York for Division Artillery. But at the end of the AIT training, when you are nearing the end, you get your orders. And instead of my orders saying Fort Drum, New York, they said South Korea. So I was going to be sent to Korea for 2 years. At first I was pissed off because I'm like, this is not what I agreed to. This was not in my contract. You guys are screwing me over. First you screwed me over on changing my MOS, and now you're saying I'm going to have to go to a whole different location for 2 years. This is screwing up my plans. But I start talking with some of the other NCOs and everything, and come to find out South Korea is not a bad job because you're guaranteed to get E5, unless you screw up and do some dumb stuff. You're pretty much guaranteed your E5 by the time you finish. You're going to be deployed to Southeast Asia. You're going to get a good, it's going to look good on your record. And while you're in South Korea, if you want to go and take vacation time, take your leave, you've got the Philippines, Thailand, Japan, and all these other places nearby. So it's going to be easier. So I was thinking about, I'm like, yeah, that'd be kind of cool. Okay. So I was okay with going to Korea, but the problem is because my injuries, until my injuries heal, I'm not combat deployable, which means I'm not going to be able to even deploy over to Korea. And this is where a lot of the problems start. And I'll go ahead and start picking up on that on the next video.